People are looking for new ways to engage their employees in a different, in this hybrid environment, changing environment. But sometimes, the answer lies with us already. I mean, while the new shiny things are good, maybe if we could just look at what's available with us. And I see the power of recognition there. We have seen it ourselves working across different organizations there. Thank you, everyone, for joining me here. I'm Partha Neog. I'm the CEO of Vantage Circle. I want to talk about rewards and recognition, the important role it plays in employee engagement. I'll also introduce a framework called the AIRᵉ framework, which will help in designing and executing your recognition programs. And finally, I'll show the state of rewards and recognition in the UK market. We've done a survey across different companies, and I'll show some of the findings from there. But before I go into the details of my presentation, two important points I want to make. One, I get frequently asked, should we as HR really focus in rewards and recognition? I mean, something is already going on. I mean, should we really focus on that? I mean, my short answer to that is, who doesn't like recognition? Show me one person who doesn't like recognition, who doesn't feel good when they're appreciated and thanked. And I don't see any difference in the corporate environment for the same there. The good news is that every company is doing something around rewards and recognition. Maybe the annual function, maybe the annual salesman of the month, employee of the year, something is happening. But I think we are very much under-leveraging the power of recognition. How much the impact it can have on the engagement. Now, I looked at the survey of people who came to this event, some of the important topics, and I think one of the most important topics was around employee engagement. People are looking for new ways to engage their employees in a different, in this hybrid environment, changing environment. But sometimes, the answer lies with us already. I mean, while the new shiny things are good, maybe if we could just look at what's available with us. And I see the power of recognition there. We have seen it ourselves working across different organizations there. So it's very important there, important role it plays in engagement there. And it's everyone's doing something around this. The related question which I get asked is like, will this reduce my attrition? I personally think it's a wrong question to ask. It should be more around, will it keep my employees engaged as long as they're in the company? It's like being in a relationship. You might move out of the relationship. Circumstances changes, life goal changes. You might move out. But as long as you're there in the relationship, you should be, ideally, should be in love. Same way, I believe that you should be engaged. Employees will move out. Attrition will happen. Lots of different factors will play a role in the attrition. But as long as they're in the company, can you make them more engaged? The second point which I wanted to make was around digital tools. So should we replace our programs with digital tools? The answer, of course, is no. If you are 100, 150 employees working in the same location, the founders or the CEO or the top management can have a very direct say on the culture there. I don't think you should ever think about a digital tool. But beyond that, once you go beyond that numbers, once your employees are spread across different locations, digital tools can help in complementing your recognition programs. The Facebook birthday wishes come, right? Who cares about those birthday wishes coming there? But it at least helps my friend to know that it's my birthday. Okay, and then I get a few calls from there. So that way, I believe recognition tools and the digital tools can help in this engagement and help with the recognition programs. Most of you will be aware of the Maslows Hierarchy, right? Once the hygiene factors, the salary, the work environment, the policies are in place, it's the self-esteem needs, and recognition plays in that layer of self-esteem needs. It's again, it's not just me, it's a lot of theory and lots of papers are on this in this space around how recognition is important and meets the self-esteem needs. And again, it's not just me on the data thing. This is one of the Gartner reports which came out, which talks about the leadership focus areas. Recognition is an important pillar of the focus areas in this hybrid environment. There was this other graph, chart was also there, which I couldn't put up here. it basically says that employees who are recognized at least once, their engagement scores increase by 7 percentage points. That's a huge number. That's a huge jump. I think if you have been to some of the sessions today, they have been again talking about this engagement, how the engagement scores are important in today's environment there. This is an important chart. Okay, it's a little complex here. So basically, Gartner produces this whole HR technology landscape area. I just picked up one quadrant of this, the performance management quadrant. There are 3 circles. The concentric circles are there. So it says the bottommost circle is around the HR technologies which are embedded already there. It's mature and there's marginal benefits beyond that. I mean, most of the people know how to go about doing those things. The second circle is about the new technologies which are getting adopted now. The best practices are emerging. The new areas, it's developing very fast in this space. And the third circle is, of course, the very latest spaces where discovery is still going on there. Also, the circle sizes and colors denote something. Okay, so circle size says that the importance and the value it has today, and the color green denotes the importance of it as high in the future. So rewards and recognitions fall exactly in the ideal space today. Things are happening in this space here. Last year, the same chart, the circle of rewards and recognition was smaller. Okay, that means it was getting adopted, the importance was high, but at that present moment, it was not that giving that much value, but now it is in that area. Even in the hype cycle, if you go through the Gartner hype cycle, you will see that it is in that space where it is now moving up to, from the valley of disillusionment, it's moving up there. So it plays a very, very important role, and it's an exciting time, for you to invest in this rewards and recognition space. And I would primarily say more on the recognition than the rewards part of it there. But how are companies going about designing their R&R programs? Most of it is like how things have been going so far, what others are doing in the market, what vendors like us are talking about and shouting about. I think those influence a lot how you're designing those programs. But there's a need to relook at this. And I'm just reiterating the point which I made earlier. We really need to focus in this space here. Having an overall comprehensive overview or a philosophy of rewards and recognition. Why are we doing this? What behaviors do we want to drive? What is the goal of that? How is it aligned to the business goals? And how is it aligned to your culture, the demographics, the values, the mission, all those things. Not every company can have the same kind of programs. You have blue-collar workers, white-collar workers, contractors there. So how do you design your program? Now, this is nothing new. I mean, I'm sure most people would know that, yeah, this sounds the normal stuff which is there. But there's a knowing-doing gap. Right? So, and this became very evident during the COVID time. So suddenly in 2020, we saw a lot of companies coming to us and saying that, hey, we want to digitize our rewards and recognition program. Good for us. But then they suddenly asked us to help us design those programs. Now, we are a platform provider. We don't help in designing the programs. We, of course, give the best practices there, but we don't help in designing or we don't consult there. And as we probe deeper into it, we found actually the reason behind this. See, the expertise and experience in this R&R space is not very high. If it was, let's say, organizational redesign, comp and benefits design, there's enough expertise and experience in-house. If you don't have it, then of course there are enough consulting companies who can help you in this space. But R&R was an area where we found that expertise was not there. They have been doing something, but the real, having a framework, designing those things were not there with the companies. So we looked around, we started looking around, what's there? I mean, what kind of frameworks can people use there? And we didn't really find anything. There were a lot of theoretical papers, but a framework to actually make it implementable, that was missing there. And then we came up with this framework called the AIRᵉ framework. So we did a lot of primary and secondary research. We went through a lot of our data. And finally, we came up with this framework. And the idea behind this framework was to make it more actionable. Rather than having very warm, fuzzy pillars there, having something very actionable, which can be implemented by companies. So we have these 4 pillars, we say: appreciation, incentivization, reinforcement with an emotional connect. Appreciation is basically recognizing a person's inherent value. It need not be performance linked. Just appreciating for some work which they have done, just appreciating the person is there in the company for 10 years. It's not linked to performance. Incentivization, how do you design your program to make people, make them excited about wanting to be recognized on this platform? Reinforcement, what behaviors do you want to drive? How is it aligned to company values? And the emotional connect, which is there. All these, you can do everything perfectly, and if you don't have the emotional connect, you lose everything there. How do you personalize? How do you deliver that? And that's why it's with a superscript. It has a multiplier effect on the entire program. And this is what we call the air your employees need to breathe. I'll just slightly go through each of these pillars before I go into those findings from the UK report. So we say, when you think about appreciation, think about coverage and frequency. Okay, which employees do you want to cover? Some companies, we have seen that they want to only cover white-collared workers or corporate workers. Okay, why not the blue-collared workers? Maybe there's a reason, but you need to think about it there. Contractors, some contractors need to be included, some contractors don't need to be included. Okay, so coverage is something which you need to think about. Frequency, how do you design your program so that you have the right kind of frequency? You don't want a discrete event to be happening at the end of the year. Do you want it a continuous program? Do you want it quarterly? You need to think about it. So what the framework gives you is something to think about before you design the program. Incentivization. Okay, we say the clarity has to be there and the impetus. Clarity means the clear line of sight for employees to know what they need to do to be recognized on this platform. We hear a lot about unfairness, biasness, all those things there. But if we can have a clear line of sight there, employees will know what they need to do. And how do you excite people to be on this platform? Getting recognized by some random people, maybe not that exciting. Getting some monetary value, maybe okay. There's something in it there. But how do you excite people to be on this platform? You can on this recognition, to be recognized. How do you excite them? Maybe you can give them some exclusivity. Maybe give them some special privileges. Visibility in front of a larger crowd. Those are different factors which you think about when you design your program on the incentivization pillar. The reinforcement. Which specific behaviors do you want to drive there? I'm sticking on this side so that you can see the screen here. So which behaviors do you want to drive? It has to be specific. You don't want to give a spot award for everything. There has to be specific behaviors, and of course, 4, 5, 6, 7, maybe. Now, you can't have 10 or 20 behaviors there. You want to be specific, and how is it aligned to the business values? For example, if you have a house cleaning services company, maybe innovation is not a value which you'd be thinking too much. Discipline might be a bigger, important value in the company. Okay, so you have to design your recognition programs aligned to your business goals. I'll just take an aside on this slide. So we have been working with one client where they want to drive the ESG behavior, the environment, sustainability, governance thing. Now, that made us think deeper into this. There are very few systems in the company which can help influence behavior. Most systems are systems of record. If I say that if we need to drive this value in our company, most likely, or most of the platform, most of the time, most of the people will be using something like communication. Put up those CEO messages, send out communication. Communication seems to be the only medium through which you can influence behavior. We found that this platform can be actually used to reinforce some of these behaviors. So this client of ours, they made a special section like these are the particular behaviors which align to the ESG stuff and some metrics which is there, which can be used by the CXOs in their reporting there. So this is a very important use case of rewards and recognition tools. Personalization. How do you personalize your recognition? Do you do in a town hall? Do you just one-to-one? How do you personalize it? Okay, and how do you write in a more personal way instead of just saying good job done? So I think that's the emotional connect, and you can design your programs and how you deliver these this whole recognition there. So there's a lot of things there. I'll not be able to go through the entire thing. There's a white paper on our website, or just come down to our booths where you'll be able to pick up more on this. We have some examples, case studies around this, which will make this more understandable on the framework. So that's on the AIR framework. And the last section which I wanted to showcase was the findings which we did. So we did a survey with about 150 odd companies in UK, different sizes of companies, and with very senior folks in the HR industry. And we asked them different questions around different aspects of rewards and recognition, and tried to find out what's happening in UK. We have a similar report on a global report, as well as an India-focused report is also there. So the AIR framework also gives you an AIR score. Okay, there's a DIY tool which you can just do it yourself, and you'll get your AIR scores. The average AIR score was 59% in UK. Independently doesn't mean anything, but the global average is about 65, and the India average is about 70. The important factor is that about 67% of the companies are in this 40 to 70% score, which means they're focusing on rewards and recognition, but they're just not getting it to the final leg. A little bit of extra effort is required on this. Perceived effectiveness of the recognition programs. Now, this is a real surprise for us. I mean, the perceived effectiveness was 40% of the companies felt their recognition programs was effective there. Normally, there's a very strong correlation between the AIR scores and the effectiveness. But in UK, we found that it was all over the place. Even companies which scored high on the AIR scores had a lower effective scores, program effectiveness score there. This might mean that maybe on the execution part, there's something they need to do there. Some companies which had low AIR score, actually they scored pretty well on the effectiveness thing. So maybe they're just goals which they have set for themselves is very low, is what I could decipher. I mean, I couldn't see why this correlation was not there in UK. But in the other countries and globally, when we had done this report, there was a very strong correlation between these two things. We asked the goals, right? What are the goals of your rewards and recognition programs? Engagement, productivity, loyalty. And unsurprisingly, the companies which had all these three goals scored high on the AIR score. But even companies which didn't put loyalty in the focus and just on engagement and productivity, they also scored pretty well on the AIR scores. And this ties up with what I said in the very beginning. I think we need to focus more on the engagement part rather than on the loyalty part through the recognition programs on that. Loyalty is a byproduct which will happen with engagement. Okay, so this looks a very complex chart, but let me just give a simple explanation. This ties up with the AIR thing, the coverage and the frequency. So we found that only about less than 10% of the companies actually included contractors in their recognition programs, which might be okay depending on the kind of contractors, short-term contractors, long-term contractors which you have. But the surprising part was the blue-collar worker, the first bar which is there. So just about 50% of the companies include their blue-collar workers. I don't see any reason why they shouldn't be included. The program design has to be different, of course. You can't have purely digital program there. But it's a little surprising, that blue-collar workers have not been included, only about 50% of the companies. On the frequency part, just about 20% of the companies have a year-long program. Most of the other programs are very discrete and once a year, once a quarter kind of thing. It doesn't cost you anything, I don't think you should just limit it to a particular time period or your recognition programs. You should be able to run it across the length of the year. This is another finding. So lots of surprises in UK. Generally, large companies have mature recognition programs. Okay, so they're well advanced. They are the leaders. Others follow them. In UK, it seems to be like flat across. Across the size of companies. Even the large enterprise companies had similar scores on the AIR part there. This is on the incentivization part. How do they drive value, or how do they try to excite their employees? Monetary award seems to be the frequently used method to increase the value for the employees. Now, not surprising why it's used. It's the easiest thing to do, right? I just give some monetary value to the employees there. But I again draw an analogy. You go you go to a dinner invite, and just because it's a good dinner, you don't pay £100, right? A £20 bouquet is more effective than £100. Once you give £100, there's other implications of that. So if you give next time £75, maybe the dinner was not good. So monetary value, of course, is important, but that's not the only tool. Okay. Now, vendors like us make money when you have more of the monetary rewards there. But I think today the focus on the recognition has to increase. Monetary rewards will just be a part of it. Okay, and then managers and peers will also be able to use this program more frequently. Otherwise, they will be limited to their budgets, right? So I can give only, say £1,000 in this year. So I'll just recognize 5 people, 10 people there. So the whole, it's all tied up together, how you design your program. Okay, this we can just skip through there. Okay. Yeah, so this was ties up with the monetary recognition part, which we said there. Less than 20% of the employees on average are recognized yearly. Sorry, every quarter there. Again, ties up with the previous one. If you don't have budgets, how can you recognize more people? Once you start focusing on the recognition part and less on the rewards part of it, you will be able to run your recognition programs more frequently, and across the year there. This was just other of the data which we looked at. This is on the emotional connect. The average length of citation when you give an award, spot award. So it was 42 characters. That's like saying, Partha, good job done, congratulations. I mean, it doesn't mean anything to me there. So if you, the best performing companies, of course, have a higher length of the citation messages which are there. And there are tools today. It's not easy. We also understand it's not easy for people to write lengthy. So tools, and when I talk about digital tools, for example, in our tool, you pick up 2 characteristics of the person, at least 2 characteristics of the person, and just put up, like, say, disciplined mentor. ChatGPT generates the message for you, and then you can edit it. Okay, so it helps you to write those messages there and to make it more personalized there. So, I mean, those are broadly the findings. I mean, there's a huge number of findings. It's like almost an 80-pager which we have, which you can collect or download from our site. I can't go into each of those ones there, but you can also, there's a DIY calculator on our site, which you can just spend about 10, 12 minutes on it, and you can find your scores on your rewards and recognition programs which are there. So just to summarize, the recognition programs are very effective in engagement. You need to relook at in the recognition programs and how effectively to use it effectively. It has to be aligned to the company values, the mission, and all those things. It should be constantly measured and tweaked. Okay? Every 12 to 18 months is what we suggest. You should relook at your programs. Which values are recognized more? Which values are recognized less? What can you do to change those things? Are there certain sections of of your employees which are not getting recognized? Or is it a problem with the line managers there? So it needs to be looked at, and digital tools are important on that. So, and the last 2 slides, basically, we have been in this business for about 12 years now. And we have, while we have many clients, we also have not many clients, okay? I mean, there are hundreds of clients whom we have spoken to which never became our clients. But what it has given us is it's given us a perspective on what clients are looking at. So our clients, range from 150 people to about 250,000 is our largest client, 250,000 people across the globe, across some 60 countries which are there. So this has given us a lot of experience across, what HR is thinking and what are the new things, trends which are happening in this space. We, of course, do other areas in employee engagement also. And some of those awards and some of the big clients which we have with us today. But leaving you with this thing that engagement is very important. I think there's no doubt about that. Everyone's come to this event to learn more about engagement. But the solution might be just there with us already in the recognition space. Thank you.